How y'all doing out there? Man, I hate having to read a speech, you know. I'm normally a freestyler, but I wanted to be very careful with my words today because we're dealing with Canada Post, you know. Everything has to be politically on point and correct. So I'm going to try and stay in that positive lane. So first of all, I want to say good evening, everyone, and welcome. And I'm very honored to be your host for this evening. And I'll talk a little more about why it's appropriate and why I just love my job tonight as we go on. But in the meantime, I just want to say thanks to everyone for being here, despite the weather, to be part of this classic celebration. We have a great night ahead, and it's amazing to see everyone gathered here. If you look to your left and to your right, look all around you, in front of you, behind you, you'll see that there's so much talent in this room. There's so much history here. There's so many VIPs. There's so many movers and shakers. And we're all here to celebrate what I call a victory night for Canadian hip-hop. And it's like I'm proud to be here, and I'm sure most of you are too. And I will say one other thing too, that you know, Michie, Maestro, and Muzion, they're getting stamps yet, but they're like our stamps too, you know. I'm telling you, we're stakeholders in these stamps. For real? We are stakeholders. And I'm sure they don't mind us saying that, because without fans and without support, you know, artists can't progress. So a lot of you guys, you've grown up now. Maybe we don't recognize you from when you were 16 or 17, but you were there right here in this concert hall supporting some of these same artists. And can't say for Quebec, but again, special group of people here today. So we've done our part. These artists that are here that we're honoring tonight, you know, they represent, a lot of them, the past, for some of us the present, and still room for the future. And they've represented Canadian hip-hop, past, present, and will do so in the future. You should feel good about our nominees and feel good because you're in the room. Tonight we're going to give these three trailblazing artists the love and the respect they deserve as we honor them inside this landmark venue, this legendary stage, the concert hall stage. And we're going to pay tribute to Maestro Fresh West, Muzion, and Michie, who are in the room. So I'd like to begin first with a few words about the land in which we are gathered here tonight. So we're together here on the traditional territory of many nations. These includes the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and also the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples as well. This area is also covered by Treaty 13, signed by the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. So today, Toronto is a home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Their legacy is important as we live, work, and create alongside each other on this shared land. Yes, big up Julie Black. Next, for a quick safety moment, I want to let you know where to go in the case, you know, of any kind of emergency. So there are exits located through the main doors, right through there, and also to the left and right of the stage, we got exits there, okay, just so you know. So now that that's kind of done, I just want to get it going for real the way I want to do it now, all right? I ain't gonna freestyle, but party people. As part of our ceremony, we've got 3 celebrity speakers, just so you know what's coming, all right? We've got Michelle Geister, where she's representing Rap City. I think our VIPs are in the front. I can't really see that well in front of me right now. And we've got also Malik Shahid from Hip Hop Video Show. So we're gonna hear from them a little bit after I say what I'm gonna say. And I just want to say blessings to you both, okay? And they're gonna share their stories with us, their influences, their journeys, their perspectives, their experiences. We're gonna hear a little bit about that. All relevant, of course, to the nominees that we're here to pay respect to. And yeah, I want to bless the concert hall, though. You know, Like, I know that's a little weird and stuff like that, but this place represents so much. If you guys know anything about myself, the concert hall has been my second home when it comes to promoting in Toronto and Canada. The one good thing I'll say about this place is we encountered as promoters a lot of racist barriers. They didn't want to rent venues to black people. It was hard for us to get access to venues that could hold 2,000 people. And there's no racism here. There's no prejudice here. Despite it being the Masonic temple with Masons and stuff like that, we didn't get that shit. They were very open to doing business with black people. So I want to congratulate them for that. Okay? For real. Ladies and gentlemen, B-boys and fly girls, I'm so happy to be here tonight. This amazing event, you know what I'm saying? Michie, Maestro, Fresh West, and I can't forget Impost and J.Kyll and Dramatik. They're from a band that a lot of Toronto people, though, or an artist, they're artists that a lot of Toronto people may not know how to give the proper respect to, but they're also getting a stamp, and they represent Quebec, Montreal, French-speaking hip-hop. They're part of our Canadian identity. You know, so I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I know Toronto very well, but Toronto is always, I have that disease where we've thought mostly about ourselves and say, screw everybody else, you know. The only thing that matters is what comes from Toronto, but they are here as a symbol that it's not all about Toronto, it's about Canada, all right? We've got talent right across the spectrum, east to west, north to south, and we're proud of it. But all these artists, we say they're groundbreaking artists because they didn't just bring hip-hop to Canada, but they gave the music its very own distinct Canadian sound. But really the story of our nominees tonight is a story of beating the odds. Okay, remember they did this. They did the major part of their early accomplishments happened during the time when there was no infrastructure, which people can't fathom right now. But if you're an artist or a producer, if you're in the hip-hop game or a rap game in any way, shape, or form, imagine a world where nobody knew the game, okay? Like, we didn't know what was coming. Nobody was even dreaming, okay? There were no experts, no writers, no record labels, no pressing plants, managers, recording studios, producers, engineers that understood hip-hop and how to make it sound. And that's where these people reigned and dominated. You might think it was easy, but it was hard. The whole entire movement was USA-centric. Most of us were on the outside, innocently imitating while creating. We didn't get a sense of who we were, or what we could do, or what a Canadian identity was musically. It was New York City that was a home of rap and hip-hop. And you know what? New York City was only an 8-hour drive. It was so close. That was what was unique about being here versus being in Vancouver, Edmonton, or Calgary. The movement coming from New York was like teasing. It was tantalizing. We could hear rap on WBLK and get it clearly at 93.7 on our FM dials, you know? But at that time, there were no Canadian players in the game. Forget our own radio station. Nobody would even think of that. But there wasn't any radio that played black music. Hardly. I'm not even talking about hip-hop music. Imagine that time. That's what it was like in the late 70s, early 80s. All right, so when we had a little bit of a break, it was because shows like the Fantastic Voyage program came along. But in this era, we were forced to be on the outside looking in, hungry, thirsty. We wanted a piece of the game. So that was the stage. It was hard, but this is how it started. Okay, this is an era that our three pioneering and trailblazing artists come from and represent. Muzion, a slight exception, they came from the early 90s, but that's okay. Arguably, arguably, I would say that the TO movement was the first movement, not just the nucleus, but the catalyst for the whole Canadian scene. Could what was happening in Montreal, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver happen without the forces coming out of Toronto, without the influence of the Fantastic Voyage program, or without the influence and support of Rap City? Could the nationalization of Canadian hip-hop, including what was happening in Quebec, happen without the movement centered at the concert hall? Those are one of those questions we ask. We influenced Canadian hip-hop starting from here. And, you know, I love the concert hall. Let me say here that Canada Post, you could not have picked a more perfect venue right here at 88 Yonge Street. So much of our urban history was made and created right here. And for many of us, this place marks the beginning, and it marks the birthplace, the first umbrella in Canada where beautiful, all ages culture could call home. Many here tonight must feel completely at home because, you know, we have a right to represent with entitlements. You know, this probably is a great Canadian story because here in this room, we were the discoverers of this new music, which was still very underground, underrated, and underestimated. We remember concert hall days when we were just teenagers sneaking out of our parents' homes to attend a dance or concert and deal with the consequences afterwards. And, you know, that was some of you got beatings and stuff, right? We all heard those stories. What you doing coming home at 6 o'clock in the morning, son? But you know what? Seriously, we knew something special was going on. We didn't know it would be called hip-hop at that point in time, but we were just united here, and we felt this sonic energy. We felt a connection with each other. We didn't have to, you could be from Jane and Finch, you could be from Regent Park, but guess what? Music united everybody now, all right? Not drugs, not marijuana, not like today where you go to clubs and the whole place is full of ganja smoke. Nah, that's not what it was like. We got high from music. Seriously. So, the reason this place is special, again, is when we were young, this, for a lot of people, was the first time they seen a rapper perform live, the first time that they seen breakdancing, the first time, you know, they seen DJing and battling. This is where a lot of us got inspiration because, again, picture a world where there was no infrastructure, so you couldn't see this just anywhere. We were a special group of people, just like in New York, that found something that we didn't want anybody else to really understand. It was ours. You know, it was ours. If you remember the concert hall, let me see some of the groups that I brought here. Anybody remember Public Enemy coming to concert hall? Yeah? Were you at Eric B. and Rakim? Yeah, see, I'm telling you, that was 1987. How old are you now, man? Yo, you're showing your age. Salt and Pepper. Who's that Salt and Pepper? Who's that MC Shan? Who is that Biz Marquee? Who is that Ice-T? Who is that Ice Cube? Yeah, I'm telling you, man, all these groups were here a long time ago. EPMD, Run DMC. Was anybody here for Run DMC? Yeah, that wasn't my concert, but I was here in the audience just hearing the Sunshine Sound beating. Next day, it was ringing in my ears. But I saw the most powerful performance in hip-hop I'd ever seen in my life. And that's what influenced me, seeing Run DMC. So when people came here and saw Michie and saw Maestro and saw these young artists, these were our first rap stars that we had an opportunity to like. There was nobody else. We can't picture a world like that. Nobody was marketing themselves. Nobody dreamed of being a rapper. Nobody ever thought one day we would ever get our own friggin' Canadian stamps. Nobody. Mom, I want to be a rapper. Oh, you think so, son? You want to get a beating? No. Can't make money from this music business. You're mad? That was a regular thing because there was no history of it. There was no track record. We were supposed to be doctors and lawyers, not friggin' artists. Non-believers. But again, a lot of people here for the first time, this is where they saw their own potential, including some of these MCs right here. Ask them about it, because I didn't ask them for permission to make an assumption like that. This was a place of dreams. There's something about inspiration where when you think you have talent and you see it in front of your face and you look and you watch and you're mesmerized, and then next day you might ask some questions or go to the store and get some equipment, but next thing you know, you're on that journey. But you couldn't do it without inspiration. You couldn't do it without seeing a sign. That's why I give credit to these rappers right here. You know, I monitor the street. Yo, thing and thing, should I get a stamp too? Him should I get a, he know way more for hip hop than that guy, you know? That used to be that crab in a barrel mentality that we have to deal with all the time in Toronto. A lot of haters and shit like that. But in this case, I didn't notice it that much. I think most people, yeah, they felt a sense that, yeah, there are a lot of people that could have gotten stamps, but there's something right about starting with these artists that are right here. We got inspiration, okay? Michie, me, and Maestro, I can tell you for a fact that they didn't know this before, but when they got on their stages and performed, that's when they realized the power of loyalty, the power of being in your home arena, realizing that people would support them, whether it's performance or battling, you know, and even when they started putting out records, yes, there was a fan base here. Canada meant something. The beautiful thing, though, I want people to remember about their time in the early years was that the concert hall movement, again, it was an all-ages market, which has disappeared now. We didn't serve alcohol. We didn't serve drugs, you know. It was the DJs. They came along with their massive sound systems. The concert hall was the first umbrella. I think the radio show came second. Whether it was a Love Jam or a Monster Jam or Run DMC or Public Enemy in concert, though, one thing, the music had to play loud. We wanted to be outside and hear those windows rattling and the walls shaking. That's a concert. We want to see big stacks of speakers on these stage. It's a different kind of urban experience, maybe patterned a little bit after what Cool Herc and people are doing in New York. So we had a scene that was polarizing. A lot of early rappers coming out of New York, not that much from here, but shows were happening here. And even though we're here for a ceremony to pay tribute to these artists and to the genesis where it all began, you know, we celebrate with Muzion, Maestro, and Michie, their achievements, their accomplishments, their history, their legacy, their glory, their story. Michie, Maestro, Muzion, we salute you, we congratulate you, and we're very proud of you all. By the way, they're going to open up the bar after the ceremony, for those who know. That's the most important thing, says that guy over there. So listen, I want to humbly say that I like when things are equal, you know, Michie, Maestro, and Muzion. And because I'm from Toronto a little bit, I really wish I could have given these guys from Quebec the props that they deserve. I do want to say a few things, though, in regards to that. Hip-hop has many languages and cultures. Montreal and Quebec, with their French-speaking artists and MCs, I think they're a symbol of our own Canadian diversity and originality in the game. So being from Montreal, Muzion brought an original and distinct sound to their world of hip-hop, and they were formed in 1996, for those who don't know, because, again, they're the third recipient that we don't know much about aside from Michie and Maestro, so I'm just going to give them their props here for a little bit. And they're in the house right now, MCs J.Kyll, Impos, and Dramatik. They're the people that make up the group, Muzion. And they're all born to Haitian immigrant parents, by the way. I'll put that in there as well. Where are you guys? Just raise your hand. I don't know where you're sitting. They're over there. All right, yeah. We had a good conversation. They're the nicest guys in the world. They say all Canadians are nice people, eh? True? But if you listen to their music, though, it's a little bit, from what I listen to anyway, they talk about what rap music talked about when it started, the politics. You know, there's lessons to be learned in what they have to say. It's not just about hitting skins and shit like that. You know, they go deep. So you may want to check out some of their stuff. And definitely rapping in French. I used to work with this group called MRF from Montreal before, and my man, they told me backstage, yeah, that's one of the original groups from Montreal. See, they got their own scene there, their own VJs there, stuff like that. You're going to hear from one of them soon. So I'm going to keep it going so I don't take up too much time. But their influence basically stretched beyond music into the wider culture, and they help empower marginalized communities, like I said. So a lot of good things. But looking from the outside in, being from Ontario, not Quebec, I see them as a symbol of our Canadian hip-hop expanding and fusing outside of its traditional box, right? Hip-hop is music, and we say music speaks its own language. So when we really think about it, you know what I mean? We love these guys, And don't think for a second, Muzion, that we don't appreciate you, your journeys, your struggles, your impact, your greatness. We in Toronto have been doing our research, and we cannot underestimate the important role that you play for Montreal, Quebec, and for Canadian hip-hop overall. So, again, we salute you. Your music is damn good. We love the fury and the creativity. So we don't have to speak French to really give these guys the props that they deserve. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, again, big up to everyone who came out, man. There's a lot of people that should be here, too, that didn't come out. So some who wish that they could be here and they can't. So I'll big them up same way. A lot of love coming from Toronto. Let me just say a few words about Maestro Fresh West. Oh, you never heard of that guy? You wasn't watching TV, man. Maestro and I go way back, right? I looked at Maestro as a very determined artist. I knew this guy from when he was 15, right? Seriously, you didn't know that. But I'll tell you something about Maestro, because I think I understand personalities like him very well. So I'll tell you one thing about Maestro. He was always a believer in himself and his own talent. You couldn't tell him he wasn't good. You know what I mean? Because he knew it from when he was young. This guy, my friend, you know, who's always looked out. Anytime you see Maestro in a public place, he's always bigging up Ron Nelson, and I thanked him for that again. And the Cardinal officials, same thing, man. These guys got some love for me, and I appreciate that. And Maestro came out of the early scene. I think after discovering how addictive the rap records were that was coming out of New York. He was hearing them, and then, you know, he realized one way, wait a sec, I kind of sound just as good as them, you know? And back in those days, we used to rap in the mirror, you know? We used to look in the mirror and rap and stuff because we couldn't find any original beats to rap over. We're always rapping over other people's music. But Maestro sensed an opportunity because he was one of the earliest rappers, and you hear all this stuff coming out in New York, and some of it was good, but some of it was okay. We didn't know what greatness was yet, but Maestro became addictive, like a lot of us did, to being a rapper, okay? And I'm glad that he did. As a matter of fact, I don't know if Maestro is going to like me for saying this, but a long time ago, I was a resident DJ at a Scarborough pub at Brimley and Shepherd. It was called Wizards. And Maestro was a dishwasher, you know, and we talked about hip-hop and stuff like that. Like, can you imagine Maestro being a dishwasher? Because he's always looking so, you know, professional. Like, no, he never did that. A lot of artists never worked at McDonald's. No, they never did that. But Maestro is a person who will say that I'm not ashamed of anything. He left Canada and went to New York sometime to try to make it. I heard he had to work as a security guard. You know, these are the sacrifices that we make that we don't get credit for, that people have to do. Once upon a time, the story was you can't make it if you stay in Canada. You have to go to New York. And we've all gone to New York. Some of us stayed longer than others. But Maestro was not in the traditional box of MCs that I was around. He kind of moved quietly on his own. I did not know where he found Peter and Anthony from, but they're the ones who produced Let Your Backbone Slide, you know? I did not know where he found Farley Flex from, but Farley Flex became his manager and did a good damn good job. So Maestro all of a sudden comes to the radio station and he's like, yo, I got this album, I got the single. And that was it. It's like we found greatness right in that very moment, but he didn't really advertise and commercialize and talk about it. He was more be about it. He's a symbol of action speaking louder than words, which is why I love this guy. And yeah, seriously. Action speaks louder than words. Once upon a time when record labels didn't exist in Canada that knew anything about rap music, there was a label that put out compilation records. They were called Quality Records. And Quality Records had this project one time. They released a rap album for the first time. You might have seen it advertised on TV with the Fat Boys and stuff. It was called Kings of Rap. And they did not know how to market or promote anything to do with rap, okay? So they called me, and I called Maestro. And all of a sudden now, Maestro and I are going to these malls, and we're on the sidewalk, and I've got my turntables, and he's got the microphone, him and his partner, and where they're rapping. And we didn't know that it was the first time so many white people saw rapping for the first time in their lives, okay? Because we were out there, there was nobody else. Can you believe that? There was nobody, like, I had a problem even finding Maestro at one point. It's like, who else was there? There was hardly anybody with a name, so we ended up doing this Kings of Rap album, and that led to me and Maestro having to put in a lot of time practicing at my house in my mom's basement, you know, and me being his unofficial DJ at that point in time, man. And Maestro will tell you, man, the weird history between us, but when Let Your Backbone Slide came out, it was a joy, and as a radio DJ, it's only natural that I gave it 100% support. The song was fortified too by one of the first professionally produced Canadian music videos ever. It looked and sounded just as good as the American videos we were watching in the States. And we'd never seen that before because little did he know it, but back in those days to make a music video, how much did it cost? $50,000 to $100,000 per video. Now you can do a video for $300 or less. So how did Maestro pull it? Yo, I did not see Maestro as a person that had $50,000 to $100,000. None of us did. We were immigrants here trying to make it, trying to struggle. Our parents were saying, why are you rapping? You could be working at the factory and contributing money to this house. You know what I mean? Nobody believed. But Maestro had this kind of cocky confidence about him, you know? You couldn't tell him no about anything. Once he had his ideas, he would just do it, whether you liked it or not. You can read about all this stuff in his book, okay? He's a published author too, you know? Things that happen when you stick to your vision. So, years have passed now, and my only question to Maestro is, man, how do you do it, Maestro? You don't age, man. What's up with that? Yo, Maestro looks good. Like he's still a young kid with stars in his eyes, man. So I give you that. And I've never seen Maestro take a puff from a spliff yet. I think he's into health and going to the gym or something like that. But when you see him, you can ask him what his secret is, okay? He's still making albums, making history, dancing, conducting, performing, and acting. And I'm congratulating him for keeping his integrity and remaining true to himself. He's an authentic Canadian brand that has been repping internationally for Canada, you know, since we were in our early rap roots until now. So big up Maestro, Farley, and all those who were instrumental in the success of the record in his career. Maestro, you've made me proud, very proud. Maestro, you had a little supervision, still you went on that rap mission. People question your decision, but you stuck to your vision. Hey. And now you're cemented in our Canadian history with your own Canadian stamp, man. Nice. You've made your friends, your family, and the entire rap fraternity proud, and we congratulate you. Michie me. So, there was a rap scene that evolved into a hip-hop scene. Some people don't know there are two different scenes, but there was a time when I was scouting for Canadian talent. Rod Nelson Productions had established itself as Canada's leading hip-hop concert promoters. That plus J.Kyll and radio, and then a recording studio. It was a lot of power. We merged with Beat Factory. I convinced Ivan to move his Pickering studio to a more central North York location, and it was in the basement of my home. Same place where Dream Warriors would create their groundbreaking debut album. At that time, Michie Me had already made a name for herself as an powerful, beautiful, upcoming MC. I didn't discover Michie Me. We just kind of found each other. Myself being a radio DJ and promoter and her being an artist only made sense. Since Michie and her DJ, LA Love, were already grinding it out, you know, she was, I would say, Beat Factory's first prestigious signing. I remember Ivan Berry bragging and boasting and being so happy that he signed Michie Me, you know, and would become her management. And it was good, too, because it was because of people like Michie Me why Beat Factory Records did not pursue their R&B direction and change it to a hip-hop direction, because that's what they were doing before these guys came along and showed them that, no, man, there's a whole other market out there. So Ivan got excited, saw the money, and go, yeah, we're going to do hip-hop. But Michie Me is a story of, you know, a woman's survival and women rising up in a hip-hop game And she was, to me, the first real female MC that had a brand in Canada. The first female MC many of us have ever seen or heard rapping that came out of Toronto. She came out of the sound system culture because that was the only place for early artists to perform. When you're at a dance and it's all about the DJs, but they give you 15 minutes. We used to hear about Michie getting on the mic and the crowd would gather around her and she'd do her little 7 or 8 minutes and that would continue on and on and on with different sound systems. So I would say, without doubt, Michie is Canada's first female rap star, and she is still Canada's queen of hip-hop. I'll tell you one thing. Michie doesn't know this. She didn't know how big a star was. Me, myself, I used to get nervous, intimidated when she came around. Seriously, I'm like, whoa, Michie, like, seriously, I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this? Because she had this reputation for being good and being confident, not just in rap, but she was also a great athlete. You know what I mean? She was just good at everything she did, and being like, with this West Indian sound as well, that became recognized as one of the first Canadian artists to kind of sell that Canadian identity of having a little Jamaican twang in their lyrics. And guess what? BDP started doing it, and so on and so on. You know, who came first? We don't even know. But naturally, she carried that with her. And that's part of the distinct Canadian sound that's recognized in the world right now. So Michie, a woman with a lot of spunk, beautiful, marketable, and most importantly, very talented and very hardworking. Over the years, Michie would mature into the prime rap artist that, you know, she would become. Still likable, but still very fierce. Don't mess with Michie, okay? She's got two sides to her. But yes, Michie, I love her. She's very focused, very hardworking. And again, we big her up because women in here know as a woman you have to overcome forces like misogyny, the sexism, the racism, the exploitation, the doubting, the non-believing. As a woman, she persevered, she survived. She got signed to an American label when nobody else was getting signed. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many accolades. I mean, you're doing this as a Canadian. You know what I'm saying? And we're against the odds. This whole thing is against being against the odds. It stamps here a story against being against the odds. But she persevered. I want to big her up because, you know, she's not just any woman. She's also a black woman and a proud black woman. And she's represented for our culture very well over the years. Love you, Michie. I was going to tell Michie for a line from one of my songs. It says, "The true north here, we're strong and free because you made hip-hop history." Seriously. Maestro, that goes to you, too. So, yeah, I really don't want to chat much anymore. I'm going to keep things moving now. It's time to go to the next level because people know I'm a book. I could talk on and on and on and on, right? I'm not going to do that. Tonight is not about me. It's not about me. But, you know, I had to kind of make it clear that I belong here in this room just like many of you. And I'm very happy to be this master serving you. Okay, so now it's my pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker. We have 3 guest speakers coming up. And they won't be speaking as long as me, okay? I want to introduce somebody who helped bring hip-hop into the homes of many Canadians. I did that with radio. This person did this with television. She was the creative force behind Much Music's groundbreaking programs, Rap City and Soul in the City. I always thought of Michelle Geiser as the rebel of the Much Music family. You know, she was different than the rest and thought outside the box when it came to staying atop new musical shifts and trends. It's very important what I'm saying. She was a Much Music connection to the streets. And whether it was recruiting local and international talent or going out into the field to get footage from our most shining local and international artists, somebody had to be stationed on the front lines, and that was Michelle Geister. And Toronto's first wave of 80s and 90s concerts were, again, attended mostly by black people, okay? Because we were I guess, on the front lines at the very beginning. And believe it or not, and I'm telling you this without apology, but in the beginning, we felt so entitled that we would not welcome Caucasian people into our events with smiles. So we actually felt a sense of infiltration. Why are they there? We didn't trust them. Okay, this, again, was 1987, 88, 89. That all would change later. Like I said, if it wasn't for those white people, I would have lost lots of money in my concerts. The demographics surely changed. But in the beginning, it was black. You know, I remember a battle at the Opera House where I had to escort my white friend Alex, who's a great producer today, because people were cussing and cursing him because he was white, and I had to get him from the back to the front of the venue. So I hope you forgive us for that stage, okay? We did not mean to be hostile and hateful. We've grown up and overcome that now. Hip-hop is without color. It's for everybody. But we've had so many things taken from us that I can say that was the reason why we felt that sense of, you know, having to protect something that we felt we owned and discovered. But going back to Michelle now, I'll give her props because if you ever see the movie Wild Style, there's a white woman on there who went into the ghetto, and we gave her a lot of props for having the courage to do that. This was our Michelle Geister. I saw her in some events where, you know, I thought people were going to rob her or push her or whatever, but she just was there with her camera, didn't care, kept doing her job, ignored people who were cussing and cursing her. And that was so important because without Rap City, this scene would be a little bit more regress instead of progress. And she was very dedicated to her job. And again, I'm speaking a lot about Michelle, but she's also one of my best friends. Remember, in this stage of history, there were no reporters, no videographers, no visionaries. So it's only fitting that I introduce my good friend, Michelle Geister, representing Rap City, to the stage. Michelle.